Want to keep up to date with what's happening in Thailand? Download the Thaiger app. It works on both Android and Apple. And it's free. All the latest news, videos, and information at one click from your phone. Go to your Play Store or App Store and download now.
Good morning, Thailand, and thank you very much for joining us on our first live program. Hopefully everything is working. Hopefully you can see us. Hopefully you can hear us. I'm sure you'll tell us. We've already got some 200 people online. Bill Barnett from C9 Hotel Works. Bill, this is a bit of an experiment.
I mean, what can go wrong going live? It's a Monday, whatever, let's kick it off and try something new, right?
So today we're not going to be talking about the Sandbox. We're actually going to be talking about Sandboxes because really over the last week there's been a lot of other tourist associations around Thailand that have put their hands up and said they want to get open as well, and we'll be talking about those as the day goes.
Everybody wants in on the Sandbox, Tim.
Everybody wants to be part of the Sandbox.
And it's 9 days.
9 days until Thailand officially reopens to travellers. Now, this is big news if you are in Thailand. And there's a lot of people who are hanging on trying to get the tourism business restarted again. Now, there have been a few updates on the Phuket Sandbox. And this is people who will arrive in Phuket, have to stay here for 14 days before they can move to other parts of the country. And they're not restricted to their rooms. They'll be able to move all around the island during that 14-day stay. Bill, here are just a few of the updates. Now, we know now that, and this was announced on an infographic you sent me over the weekend.
Which is a draft.
It's a draft.
It's a draft.
But these are just little updates which will hopefully be approved tomorrow and then gazetted later this week. So travellers will be able to shift to another SHA Plus hotel after the first 7 days. So you'd be able to stay in Macau for the first 7 days, then
transfer to another hotel?
Move to Patong or whatever you like. But as long as they are SHA Plus hotels. All travellers will need to get a letter confirming their stay at their booked hotel. So that's another little bit of paperwork that's required. We'll get to some of the messages in just a moment. Travellers are welcome to stay less than 14 days in Phuket. But if they want to depart, if they're going to stay for fewer than 14 days, they have to leave via Phuket Airport.
Okay. I think a few things we don't know yet, which we're waiting for clarification, is what about drinking? Everybody's saying, can I have a drink? Are restaurants and bars going to be open? Can I get a drink in my hotel? We don't know that yet. So that's something we're still waiting for. And this whole issue about the wristband. Again, there's not clarity. I know there was a lot of chatter last week about the wristband. Oh, it's like going to prison or something else. We don't know what that answer is yet. We believe that you'll be tracked on your smartphone on the Morchana app. And if you don't have a smartphone, the wristband would be the default. But again, we're waiting for the guidelines, Tim.
So, we've got a whole lot of people there. Joseph, hi. Saman, hello. KMM, Mark, good morning to you. What have you got there, Bill? Any questions you'd like to address?
Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. From David Hollingstead. Are Thai nationals allowed to travel from, say, Korat to Bangkok without restrictions?
Korat being in the northeast of Thailand.
Which is not at the Sandbox, correct.
To Bangkok. At the moment,
yes.
There's no restrictions as far as I know. They can drive straight into Bangkok. Indeed, the whole idea of restricting the areas on the mainland of Thailand, something we're going to be talking about soon with the other proposed sandboxes. I think that's got all sorts of problems. Who else we got?
Here's from Stefan H., who's a member as well. Waiting in Bangkok, do you think that domestic travelers should allow the same restrictions as foreigners? There's been a lot of discussions about Thai nationals and also expatriates living in Phuket or living in Thailand as well. Tim?
Well, as far as we know, the restrictions for the sandbox in Phuket will apply to anybody coming onto the island. Coming by road, it's slightly less cumbersome as far as we can see, but there will be restrictions on anybody. The idea is they're trying to contain Phuket to make sure that any people coming in who may bring COVID don't spread to other parts of the country.
Exactly. There's another one. Let's see where we're going. Yeah. Okay. Will people living there who haven't taken the vaccine allowed to leave the island?
No. Basically, as far as we know.
It's going to be difficult, and I think that's going to be a bigger issue, even for expatriates here who want their work permits renewed and everything else. The vaccination policy is still not clear in terms of immigration and everything else, but certainly there is going to be a dual policy for tourists and also for residents living in Thailand, right?
And by the way, there's so many people and so many questions, we simply won't be able to get to all of them, but we certainly will. Of course, out of courtesy, we'll be addressing our members first. But yeah, a lot of people there. Daniel, we've got New York Hardcore.
Oh, there you
go. Werner B, hello. Bob M, hello.
Werner B is a good question here. If I come to Phuket on or after the 1st of July, do I need a COE, which is a certificate of entry, to get in, or can I get a visa on arrival?
You can get a visa on arrival if you are from one of the countries that issue visas on arrival. However, you still have to negotiate with your embassy before you come to Thailand, because you will have to get a certificate of entry. It's not a visa, but the actual visa part is the easiest part. It's all the other paperwork that you'll need to get in place.
Maybe just some clarity on that is you will be required to go to the Thai embassy and communicate with the Thai embassy and get a certificate of entry, a COE, to be able to book your trip and also get on the airplane.
Yes.
Yeah, the airlines will be checking for that. That's essential.
If you don't have that certificate of entry, they won't let you onto the plane from wherever you're coming.
Okay. Maybe in from New York Hardcore, right? Have you been able to return to do a quarantine in Bangkok? Okay. Just have to do quarantine in Bangkok for the time required.
Huh?
Exactly. We're trying to figure out.
Sorry, didn't get that one.
Yeah, exactly. Have you been able to, or do you quarantine for the time required? I mean, the quarantine is still in effect in Bangkok right now.
Yeah, if you want to arrive in Bangkok and stay in Bangkok, you'll have to do the 14-day ASQ. Got Peter Hearn here, one of our members, says, I arrive in Phuket on July the 15th. Can my partner who resides in Patong stay with me in my motel? A lot of people have asked us about this. They've got Thai partners or family. Can they visit them? I figure officially the answer is no, they won't be able to, but you might have to figure that out.
Okay. Here's a good one.
Officially, I think the answer is no, but unofficially, I don't know.
Here's an interesting question from Cool Spot. Is the ASQ still going to be available in December, as I can't take vaccines due to the allergy? I mean, there's a whole lot of travelers out there who maybe have had COVID as well and are wondering, since they aren't vaccinated, how that policy is going to apply, and also those who cannot take the vaccine.
I think there'd be some certificate saying that you've had COVID and that you carry antibodies which make you partially resistant to the virus. How that paperwork evolves is going to be something that not only Thailand but the rest of the world are going to have to figure out. So yeah, I think at some stage people who have had COVID will be able to travel around the world, but they'll have to have some paperwork just saying that they carry the antibodies.
Here's a good one, Mike Kennedy, because we're going to another subject now. You said you're going to go over the pictures behind you. Love to hear the stories.
Which one? We did this one, didn't we, with David? This one.
This one, yeah.
Well, that's just the Thaiger and a Thaiger logo. That's not really very interesting. We'll leave that to another day. I'll get my head around which one we'll cover next, and I'll pull it off the wall if it doesn't fall off by itself. Just some of the other changes that were coming up, Bill, while you're checking those messages. If travellers are not resident of the country that they're travelling from, in other words, if you're an American and maybe you're in Korea or something, they will need to have been in that country for a minimum of 21 days before arriving in Phuket. Now, this week's announcement that the Sandbox wouldn't apply to Thais, long-term residents or diplomats arriving from overseas, that has been scrapped. The Sandbox arrival is now available to everybody. Yeah.
I think the only caveat to that will be that they still have to stay in an SHA Plus hotel when they come to Phuket for 14 days.
Absolutely, yes. Everybody's now going to be treated the same. Thais, foreigners, everybody will be treated the same under the Sandbox program. Yeah. Another question from you, Bill?
Let's see, okay. When will the COE for Phuket be updated on the embassy website for COE applications? I think the answer for that is going to be as soon as the Royal Gazette is issued.
Yeah, the situation in Thailand with any law is it needs to be gazetted in the Royal Gazette, that basically signed off by the palace or the head of state. And at that stage, it will then be updated in all the Thai embassy websites around the world, and you'll be able to do all the paperwork, the certificate of entry that is needed to get into Phuket.
Here's a very relevant question from Shooks25. Question, when can I start booking the flights and hotel, planning to travel in July 4th, right? I think that's going to be, we talked about that the other day. What should travelers do who are planning and coming in the Sandbox, Tim?
I missed that because I was reading. This is the problem. We have to sort of, we're reading and we're looking at the camera and we're answering questions.
I think the answer for that one really is get travel insurance, make sure your booking can be canceled any one time, go through the procedures. You are going to need to communicate with the Thai embassy. You are going to have to get a certificate of entry. And again, check with the airlines what they're accepting, because don't wait to get to the airport and find out and be disappointed.
Just to follow up, Peter Hearn, who was asking about his partner staying with him at the hotel, said, if my partner cannot stay, I'll just go home to her home during the day. Well, this is what's going to happen. People who have property in Phuket, and they'll probably have to stay at the SHA Plus hotel at night, but they can go back to their home during the day and put their feet up and swim in their pool.
I think, Tim, one of the subjects we want to talk about was not just the Sandbox, but the other Sandboxes coming up in Thailand as well.
Well, strange you should ask, Bill, because that's coming up in just a moment. I was just going to go through the other updates in Phuket before we have a quick break, and then we'll get on to the next lot of Sandboxes that are on the way. People vaccinated will have to have had vaccinations approved by the Thai FDA or the World Health Organization at least 14 days before they depart their country to Thailand.
Yeah. Maybe one final question, which is actually very relevant. Can you fly to Bangkok and then transfer to Phuket?
I understand, and I think this will be announced in the next couple of weeks, they will have, I believe, at least 1 or 2 flights per day.
Sealed routes.
Yeah, a sealed sort of situation where you'll be able to go, you'll arrive at BKK, Suvarnabhumi Airport, you'll then be transferred to a special transit lounge, which will all be sealed, and then get on a flight. Those flights will obviously be Thai Airways or Thai Smile. You won't be able to book a flight and then arrive at Suvarnabhumi and then jump onto a Thai Vietjet or any other cheap discount fare to Phuket. You'll actually have to go on the...
certain flights will apply. So again, check with your airline before you're traveling.
Yeah, there's the whole procedure is just going to be a little bit more complicated than it's been in the past, and you just need to make sure that you're fully aware before you jump on your plane of the things that are heading your way before you get to the palm trees. We've covered the wristbands. Everyone in Thailand, foreigners, travellers and locals are required to wear a face mask in public at the moment right around the country. So when you come here, you will be required to wear a face mask. Yeah. All right, Bill, as you're sort of going through, we've got quite a few members coming on. We've got Daryl, we've got Stefan, who's asking a lot of questions, and we've got Lee as well. And we've got you out there. We're doing this live. Good Morning Thailand. And we'll be back with you right after this break. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha is asking everyone to work together towards the reopening of Thailand. Bangkok restrictions are being lifted on 8 categories. That includes swimming. Tar balls have been found along Phuket's west coast beaches. Pattaya pushes for an August 1 sealed route reopening plan. And 1 million Sinopharm vaccine doses arrived yesterday. All those latest stories at thetiger.com. Welcome back to Good Morning Thailand, our very first live edition of the program. It'll be live. Did I say something wrong? No, Good Morning Thailand, yes.
We are live, Tim.
Thought I said Good Morning Phuket, which could be wrong. Now, we're talking about sandboxes today because it's not just the sandbox, there's other sandboxes involved as well now. And we're going to talk about the next one, which is sort of an obvious extension of the Phuket sandbox, and that's the Gulf Islands of Koh Samui, Koh Phangan and Koh Tao, and they're all part of the Suratani province. And nice little archipelago of islands there that are very popular. Koh Samui, the second largest island in Thailand. And you might like to go through some of those, the differences in the Sandbox program. It's a little bit more detailed.
I think Samui is not really a sandbox. It's kind of a quasi-sandbox, I'm going to say. Right now, they're using a sealed route, which they're talking about bringing people through Bangkok, and then eventually they'll have direct flights through Samui as well. But people would be made to quarantine for 3 days, stay within the hotel premises. Again, we haven't seen the guidelines, but in principle, what they're saying is days 1 to 3, you stay within your hotel. On days 4 to 7, you can travel about Samui and everywhere else. And on days 8 to 14, you can travel onto Koh Tao, Koh Phangan, and enjoy your holiday.
Werner asks, after my 14-day stay in Phuket, do I get a certificate to leave Phuket to other places in Thailand? Yes, you'll be sort of basically given a clearance, a piece of paper that will allow you to fly off the island and go anywhere in Thailand.
Right now, there's two tests right now, whether they're rapid tests or PCR tests. We're waiting again for the final news on that. But on day 13, you do get a test, so that test will be used when you travel throughout Thailand as proof of COVID-19 testing, right?
David Cook says, who in their right mind would want to go now? Well, the fact is that there are some people who are really wanting to travel, and not only people who are tourists that really like traveling and want to get back to a tropical island, but there's all the people that are coming back to Thailand because they haven't been able to get back over the last year, and they want to get back to their properties, back to their families, back to their businesses. So the Sandbox really is not just an option for tourists, but it's for general travellers who are trying to get back into Thailand. They're the sort of people that who are in their right mind are trying to get back and will use the Sandbox as an opportunity.
I think that's general consensus. People say who's going to come, who are those first travelers going to be? Certainly there's going to be these travelers coming in who already have residences or long stay guests. And also TAT is going to be bringing a lot of people in terms of promoting Thailand, promoting the Sandbox as well. So that agenda is quite clear too for international tourism. The world is watching Thailand and the world is watching Phuket in the next 9 days.
Super Spurs says, hi, Koh Chang is the second largest island in Thailand. Can we double check that? Has somebody got access to the
internet? Jay at the sports desk, Jay.
Which is the second largest island in Thailand? I'm still going to stick with Samui.
I'm with Koh Chang, Tim.
All right.
Exactly.
I've thrown the tech crew into complete confusion. All right, so we're still... It's Koh Chang.
Yes.
Okay, I lost that one. All right, so Koh Chang, which is on the other side of the Gulf of Thailand, on the near Rayong, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Rayong.
One of the great islands, actually. Great experience going through Trat. Great island as well. Actually, when we were talking last week to our vlogger there, he was in Koh Chang, right?
Oh, to Chad.
Chad, exactly.
Chad from CB
Media. Shout out to Chad and Koh Chang.
Dean says, hi, I like your news program. Do you think Thailand should change it to economy and rely less on mass tourism? That's from Dean. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about, Thailand has lost some 10 to 20% of its GDP through losing most of its tourism. Those figures are bandied around often, but it's somewhere in that sort of realm. Yes, Thailand perhaps should diversify from not being quite so tourist dependent. Having said that, it's got a very big manufacturing industry.
Sure.
It's got a lot of tech, a lot of overseas investment. So I think there has been a sort of a move towards diversifying Thailand's economy. It's just in the past decade, Thailand became so popular with tourists that it became a big part of the economy.
I think a lot has to do with geography. We're within, 6 to 8 hours of a third of the world's population. That's going to continue to be there, that base of people who want to travel. While it's not rose-colored shades, and we're not saying it has to be mass tourism, I think next 2 or 3 years we are going to see things bounce back. If we've seen what's happened in the U.S. right now with people going back, I had pictures from people in Zurich yesterday in a park. They're going about their normal lives again 1 year after.
Peter Ritter asks, the Thaiger, do you know any more about the Pattaya Go Forward scheme? We're going to be getting to that in just a moment, so don't worry, Peter, we'll be addressing that.
Here's a good one actually from Scott, who's a member as well. In terms of numbers of how many travelers would be considered to be a success coming into Phuket Sandbox, and you and I have debated this for a long time. You're saying hundreds, I'm saying thousands.
Well, the TAT have predicted between July and September, the TAT, the Tourism Authority of Thailand, have predicted, completely pulling numbers out of the thin air, 129,000. I'm not sure how they could, why didn't they even round it off to 130? But they said 129,000 foreign travellers for the first 3 months. They've also said that there'd be 500,000 local tourists in that first 3 months. So they're predicting some 600,000 people in the first 3 months travelling to Phuket.
I think the main thing is that this is a first step. You have to start someplace. And this is not just about Phuket, it's about Thailand and reopening travel to Thailand. So, baby steps.
Stefan says, Tim, try saying good morning Thailand the same way Robin Williams says good morning Vietnam. No. Next one.
From Australia, when will a bubble between Thailand and Australia open? Actually, when will Australia open, Tim?
Yeah, Australia and New Zealand have been relatively successful in containing the COVID virus. Of course, both are islands, and it's a lot easier on an island to contain the situation. Australia, I've heard my friends saying they're not allowed to leave the country unless it's some sort of important trip or emergency until at least the end of the year or even next year.
Yeah.
What's the intel you've got, Bill?
Yeah, I think it's going to take time.
Australians and New Zealanders can travel between the two countries, though. So,
which has been a boom for house prices, been a boom for tourism internally, but they have shut themselves off effectively.
My sister actually is a travel agent in Victoria, and she's had a pretty rough time because Melbourne's gone into lockdown some 2 or 3 times over the past year and made things very difficult for, a lot of businesses, but especially for travel agents. Chris Kennedy says, do you think the local attitude in Phuket towards tourists will change or will it go back to business as usual with the taxi mafia, jet ski scams, etc.? The taxi mafia, one of the many elephants in the room. Look, I think you'll find that a lot of businesses will be very happy to see tourists come back. There has been an attitude, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years in Phuket where the tourists just kept on coming, and we were getting up to, about 1 million a month. And I think there was a certain level of scams. But I always said to people, if you're worried about scams, spend 5 minutes on the internet before you come to Thailand, and you'll know exactly what's going on, and you'll learn how to politely say no to people. The problem is a lot of people say yes. The jet ski scams, I think, have really been pretty much ironed out. They still happen, but a lot of people now know about them, and they'll sort of see it coming if it's going to happen. And we'll keep on publishing about those situations if they occur. Of course, it's not good when they do, but 5 minutes on the internet, just go Thailand scams, and you'll have a much happier trip.
Well, there's been a lot of questions, people asking about the Thailand opening on a countrywide basis by mid-October. Tim, what do you think?
Sorry, I missed that.
Okay.
This is bad. We've got this going. Sorry, Bill.
Multitask. Okay. Okay. There's been a lot of news about Thailand opening as a country by mid-October. The Prime Minister has come out and say this is a footprint to reopen the country as well.
120 days.
Yeah, exactly, mid-October. What do you think the chances are?
Well, look, it's going to be really incumbent on the success of the Phuket Sandbox for everything else to follow. If there's suddenly a surge of cases, if the Thai government get cold feet and they start locking down or restricting access again, then mid-October is not going to happen. But the thing about the Sandbox is it's a start. And at some stage, they've got to pry open the gates. They've got to start somewhere. There may be a lot of restrictions, but they have to start somewhere. And this is the best way to start, with restrictions, with some bold, pioneering travellers coming to the country, going through all the hoops. But they did have to start somewhere. 4 months down the track, it would be impossible for anybody to predict if that's going to happen. We can be hopeful, but there is 4 months. We really don't know what's going to happen next week. And people who
I'm sure what's going to happen tomorrow.
as far as the Sandbox is concerned, we assume it's going to be approved. We assume it's going to start. We assume that Phuket's level of COVID cases is going to continue to decrease. But things could change very quickly, and we have to understand the situation is fluid, and there will be changes.
I think we've got a few questions about people saying, can I come from India? Can I come from the Philippines? One of the premises of the Sandbox is low and medium risk countries, not high risk countries. So I think it's important people go back and people are saying, what source should they go to find out which countries are on what list, Tim?
Okay, we've published that list at the Thaiger.com. I'll just double check where it is. It's a little bit hard to follow, but I can tell you in both India and Philippines are currently considered red countries or high risk. And I think it would be very difficult to travel to Thailand under the Sandbox scheme with the current situation in those countries.
Here's a good one in from Bipolar Punt. What happens if someone tests positive, Tim?
I don't know. This is a fear I think a lot of people have.
I would believe you'd go to quarantine. I would believe you'd have to do the 14-day quarantine.
They're not going to say, oh, you're positive. Well, you be careful. No, they're going to take you off to a quarantine, and it's probably going to ruin your holiday. But of course, they have to put that safety measure in place, and they can't have somebody who's positive wandering around the island. It's really stopped me from going back because I was travelling to Bangkok every week, and it stopped me coming back when they started doing testing because I thought it'll just be my luck to have a positive test, and I'll be out of the system for a good 2 or 3 weeks.
What do you think about drinking again? I mean, that's always on the island. In Bangkok, people are talking about, I believe we're going to have news very soon about liquor being allowed or not allowed, in places like Phuket.
I would say minimum, they're going to have to allow the serving of alcohol in restaurants. Whether they open the entertainment zones and the nightclubs, I think that's probably a lot less likely. But
they're killing restaurants. They're killing them.
Yeah. You can still buy alcohol at a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, and you can drink alone at home.
Yes, which is all very sad. Or assumedly, you could probably take it down to the beach, although I don't think that'll be encouraged. But I'm pretty sure this week they're going to say we'll allow alcohol to be served at restaurants. They'll be mad if they don't.
One more from James Kim. When is the Royal Gazette announcement?
Well, we don't know. But
we believe it's this week.
Yeah, the double CSA basically gave a tacit approval to the latest proposal on Friday. We believe it will go to the Cabinet tomorrow. They have their weekly meeting on Tuesdays. And then Thursday or Friday, it could be gazetted. And then we'll start seeing it appearing in the embassies around the world.
Exactly.
Hi to Saman, to Dirty Old Man. What's he saying? False positive is a big risk also. Yeah, false positives are an issue, and I suppose the thing that I was mostly worried about. If you do get a positive result, they always do a backup test to make sure that the first one wasn't incorrect. But hospital if you are sick, concentration camp if positive. Well, look, I think no matter where you go in Thailand, you're going to be treated well. You're going to be treated fairly. So yes, a field hospital is probably not quite as good as a private hospital, but just don't get COVID. Wear a mask. Socially distance.
Here's
Wash
another
your
one.
hands.
Here's another one in from Enrico. Do you think Phuket will get 70% of its people vaccinated in time?
No. I think my own personal opinion on this is that we know at the moment 62% of Phuketians have had one vaccine. And just over 30%, I think it's 30.4%, have had 2 doses. So they've now got just under 2 weeks to get that 70% level. I would say that no matter how many people eventually get vaccinated by July the 1st, they'll be opening the doors on July the 1st, and the statistics will somehow match that 70% by hook or by crook.
I think there are vaccinations going daily. I'm getting my second vaccination this Thursday as well. There's a lot of questions about mask requirements. Right now you have to wear masks in Phuket. People are asking, when are masks not going to be required?
I think the wearing of masks is going to be around for a long time. In Asia, they weren't that rare, actually. You used to see people wear masks getting onto the BTS, going about their daily life. It's not an unusual thing to see in Asian cultures. As far as Thailand's mask-wearing requirements concerned, it's required under the emergency decree, and that's still in place. And I think we'll see a wearing of masks as a compulsory item in public places for at least the rest of this year. That's my opinion. I don't know.
There's been a lot of questions about people being put into quarantine in concentration camps or something else. I spent a few days in an ASQ hotel, actually. In Thailand, I had a balcony. I was able to look outside. It was actually much better than... I have friends going to Hong Kong, friends going to Sydney as well, who have been stuck with rooms which are like a concentration camp. Can't even see a window and everything else. So Phuket, by means, in terms of that, it's not that bad.
Yeah, and you're not going to be, there's no ASQ required. If you come here and you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to stay in your hotel. You'll be able to wander all around the island. You're not required to stay in your hotel. If you aren't vaccinated, you can still come to Thailand, but you'll have to stay in an ASQ hotel for 14 days at the moment.
Sure, and I think one of the other questions we're facing is right now when you arrive at Phuket Airport for the Sandbox, you'll be required to take an SHA transportation vehicle.
Yeah, so at the airport, there'll be people waiting and...
SHA approved.
They'll say, oh, I'm SHA approved, look at my logo, I've got the... So I think if you're staying at a particular hotel, they will arrange the transportation to your hotel. Sure. And they'll be waiting outside the airport and they'll have the sign, the usual thing.
Sure. Here's another question in from Jimbo. What percentage of hotels have SHA certification? There's about 1,800 tourism establishments registered in Phuket. Right now, I think it's about 600 that have received SHA and more applying every day. So again, there's hundreds and hundreds of SHA hotels. You'll have a budget. There's SHA hotels from one-star hotels to luxury hotels.
Yeah, I've seen
every budget.
I've seen it as low as about 700 baht per night. So it starts quite at under 1,000 baht, which is like $25 a night. So yeah, the entry level into the Phuket Sandbox is not that high. There's a lot of different levels of the hotels. Is Cambodia easier? At the moment, no. Both Cambodia and Vietnam are both still quite stringent. In fact, there's a bit of a purge on in Vietnam where they're not renewing or extending tourist visas. And a lot of people have been staying in Vietnam for many years, just extending their tourist visa, which was possible there, not so easy in Thailand. But at the moment, yeah, a lot of people writing to us saying there's a bit of a purge on. They're not allowing them to renew, and a lot of people have had to leave the country very quickly.
Right. And another one went in from J. Rowe. Can you travel to Samui Sandbox if not vaccinated but test negative? I think, again, it's going to be, the Samui protocol is going to be very similar to Phuket. I think you will have to have a vaccination certificate.
So talking about Sandboxes today, Bill, we're going to head off to Pattaya in just a moment and talk about the sealed route project there. Some of our viewers have brought up.
Watchers.
Watchers. We're going to get to that right after this break.
The Thaiger is getting behind businesses for the restart of tourism next month. With 60,000 daily YouTube viewers, and around 8 million clicks on our website each month, half of them from overseas, let us help you get in contact with the next wave of inbound travelers. Thaiger is offering 50% discounts on packages right through this month. Details in the description under this video.
Welcome back to Good Morning Thailand here on the Thaiger. Got Bill Barnett with me from C9 Hotel Works. Somebody says, Shaneo Traveller says, need your sister's business name for travel out of Australia. Well, you can search for Trish Stamp Travel in Mount Eliza. I'm sure she'd be very grateful.
It's a good pitch, Tim.
At least I can do for my family. So let's have a talk about Pattaya. Unlike the islands, unlike Phuket and the Sandbox projects, I don't know how they're going to apply the same stringent requirements of getting into the area and out of the area for a city in Chonburi.
Yeah. I mean, Pattaya is an important Thai tourism destination.
Very.
It's second most important in Thailand. It's got over 12 million tourists a year, or travelers a year. So, it certainly ranks higher than Phuket in terms of that. Hotels are bleeding there right now. With all the issues in Bangkok right now, it's been hugely hit. So they've got to do something. But what can they do?
Well, yeah, because you can control people coming onto an island. But how do you do it in Pattaya or Chonburi, the whole of Chonburi, for example? Are you going to close off every road and have a checkpoint?
Well, could you build a wall?
Build a wall.
How long will that take? It didn't happen in 4 years, but we'll see how much longer it can take.
Yeah, so I just don't see functionally how it's going to. How do you think it could work?
It's not functional. I mean, Pattaya, like Chiang Mai, like Bangkok, have to reopen once we establish some protocols in Phuket and move onwards with it. We've got to get the country vaccinated, and to go to broad arrivals back in Thailand, again, vaccination is the only answer.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. They're saying August the 1st for the Pattaya sealed route project, but I don't see it happening because the mechanism of being able to control people coming in and out is just so much more difficult when you've just got hundreds of roads leading into the area. Bipolar Punt says, is there a curfew in Phuket? Well,
not.
There's no curfew, but there are restrictions on opening and closing times on things like 7-Elevens, family marts, shopping centres, all being required to close an hour earlier at the moment. So I imagine some of those restrictions may be lifted, but there is no curfew anywhere in Thailand at the moment, no official curfew.
Okay. Here's from a member, Advocates Diaboli, great name. Are the beaches cleaner in Pattaya now?
Oh, yeah, the beaches in Pattaya
amazing,
look fantastic.
Well, what about the beaches in Phuket right now?
Well, okay, there was a story yesterday, it was published on the Thaiger.com about an oil spill in Phuket. Be assured they'll be cleaning that up very, very quickly. The pictures have been circulating, and it's not the sort of pictures that the tourism people in Phuket want to see being shared around the world at the moment. Be assured they'll be getting to that very, very quickly. The beaches in Pattaya they've been doing some extra reclamation work, and my understanding is they look pretty good. Yeah.
And there were other questions. Is Koh Phi open? You're able to travel to islands right now. So I talked to people over the weekend who went to Koh Racha. It was a nice day out, good weather. So,
well, yeah, with the Sandbox project, I don't think, tell me if I'm wrong, you'd be able to travel from Phuket to Koh Phi, because PP is part of the Krabi province.
Correct.
But there are 7 or 8 islands which are included in the Phuket province.
Correct.
Koh Racha, Koh Naka.
Honeymoon Island, Maitan,
Cologne. Coral Island?
Yeah.
Sure. So just off Geelong. So there will be plenty of islands open, but you won't be able to go to Koh Phi until 14 days.
Right.
Okay. Any more? We'll do, 3. You do 2, I'll do 2.
Okay.
Off you go.
Do Massage 7-Eleven have to be SHA plus as well? Jay was at 7-Eleven today, right, Jay?
Was there a sign saying SHA plus out the front? Look, any business will be able to register for SHA. We could be SHA approved media outlet. I'm not sure what that would mean, but anybody can apply for SHA registration. Shops, hotels, transport companies. So it'll be a sign basically giving you a certain amount of confidence that those businesses have answered certain questions and passed certain stringent guidelines. So it's really for your benefit, this SHA registration.
Yeah. And then from Ron John, just learn to live with it. And to a point, Ron John, you're correct. We are going to have to learn to live with COVID. I think we're going to have to learn to live with pandemics in the future.
Yeah, well, not only that is the Thai government have sort of moved from we're going to contain this virus now to okay, we're going to manage this virus. And that whole change in the narrative has been, I suppose, the most important thing that's emerged by the establishment of the Sandbox, and also by the Prime Minister's announcement that they're going to reopen in 120 days. They're basically saying, look, there are going to be cases, there are risks. We're going to try and manage this situation. Everybody's learning right around the world. We haven't had to do this before.
Right.
Recently.
And a good one from John Baker. Can my Thai wife stay with me for 14 days if a Sandbox in Phuket, right? She is not vaccinated. We don't know the answer. Until we get the firm guidelines, it's unclear.
Yeah. I won't say that. Okay, what is your take on the dual price system for foreigners versus Thais? Now they're desperate for travellers. Yeah, dual pricing is a whole topic. Maybe we should do a whole program about dual pricing one day. There is dual pricing in many different places. I think if you're a local, you're aware of the dual pricing. We sort of know how to get around most of those issues. There will be dual pricing. It happens pretty much all around the world in tourist areas. So sure. It's a whole big topic. I don't think we've got time to go into it now. Not close to 1 million, says James. I don't know what you're talking about. So we have to look forward to yearly vaccination shots, says ADKCNM.
I think that's a given right now.
Well, yeah, at the moment, I have an annual flu shot.
So do I. No.
I haven't had flu for some 20 years, so maybe it's working. Maybe it's a placebo, I don't know. And I understand that the actual vaccine, which is updated all the time, is only about 30% effective, but has been responsible for allowing a lot of people to avoid flu. I think with COVID, as it slowly becomes endemic rather than a pandemic, it's something we're going to have to look to in the future, where we may need an annual COVID shot.
Exactly. Just a question in from Dean Boulder. I heard that Thailand is going to let high-income spending buy property here. Do you think it's a good idea? We've talked a lot. I think we talked last week about these incentives being touted by TAT about foreign ownership of property. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, look, at some stage, I think Thailand is going to have to let its guard down and start allowing some ownership of property by foreigners. At the moment, foreigners are allowed to own condos 100%, but the total number of foreigners would be less than 49% of the total ownership in the condo. And there are usually some clever accountings done to allow that to happen. But you can't own property, you can't own land here in Thailand. I think at some stage they'll start relaxing the laws. I don't know, but I think they will.
I think it's going to take time. It's going to really take time for property ownership to change. That's not up to the TAT to decide. There's a lot of legislation to go forward with that. So it's a long-term issue. And going into elections next year, probably not the top of the agenda.
No. To Leo, James, Neil, J, Psychedelic, TD, Barry, keeps on asking the same question. What sauce should be used to get the red, yellow, green? Yeah, we'll make sure that's published on thetiger.com today. I saw a graphic the other day, not particularly easy to understand, and they update the low, medium, and high-risk countries every 2 weeks. So we'll put one that was, I think, published last week, but certainly your embassy will also be able to tell you whether you're a low, medium, or high-risk country.
Yeah. And here's one final question, Bill. Can I use the same booking for the SHA hotel and the Sandbox for my partner coming from Japan? So there's a lot of questions about people coming together and how they're going to handle that, Tim. I think we're not going to know until we see the actual protocols.
Yeah, and even with the protocols are announced and the guidelines are announced, I don't even think they're going to address that issue, and it may be on a case-by-case basis. And I really don't know what you're going to say to your reception desk to try and get that to happen. But bit of creative thinking, but that's a really curly one. A lot of people wanting to spend time with partners in their hotels. I don't know if that's going to be addressed. Yeah.
And one in from Ryan Guy. I want to have people over to my home. Is it still illegal in Phuket?
What?
To have people coming to your house.
I think they're allowing, 2 people at the moment to visit your house.
But not allowed to drink.
Not allowed to drink. Yeah. Of course, it's still happening, but no, officially you shouldn't be having gatherings. That's the official announcement.
Yeah.
And we had a great time at our house yesterday. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. This is our first of what's going to be a daily live program, trying to give you lots of content and also answer your questions as best we can. And I noticed there's sort of an internal conversation between some of the people asking questions as well.
We've got some new formats this week as well. We've got some other moderators coming in as well. I think that's going to be great.
Some other moderators.
Jay from the sports desk. Jay? Are we coming in?
Jay, tomorrow's guest. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. Yeah. How many times have you been married?
3 times.
David Lawrence he calls himself a recovering divorce lawyer of 13 years and founder of Pegleg, a Thailand-based legal tech company. David's going to be online tomorrow talking about the process of divorce.
Divorce in Thailand.
Divorce in Thailand, and there should be a lot of questions about that. But we'll try, as we move through each program, address all your various questions about other topics as well. But each day we hope to have different experts in talking about things. And sometimes we'll talk about nothing in particular and let your questions drive the conversation.
And we'll try not to thump the table, because that seems to be contentious.
Yes, the mics are sitting on the table, so we apologise for the noise and making Jay angry. To Jay and Jason, thank you for pressing the buttons. To Bill Barnett, thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for joining in our very first live Thailand news today. I think I sounded very Australian then. Live Thailand. No, it's not Thailand news today. It's Good Morning Thailand.
There you go.
Half an hour of this is too much. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks, Thailand.